Welcome. I am Devon with Team 1 for the Intelligent Parking application with NAVC. This iteration, I worked with my teammates to include 6 new key features for iteration 4. Of those 6, that includes the Events tab, the Report button, a switch toggle between the heat map and the parking map, or building markers on the map interface, adding a weather label to pull data from Firestore with the Weather API, and adding semantic labels for users with visual impairments to traverse the app.
Accessibility. Select predict info event setting interact current snap button. Off toggle heat map view. Switch.
But that concludes everything that's been added on the front end for iteration 4. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Andres Godinez with Team 1, and I'll be discussing the stories I've worked on and completed this iteration. I'll start with Firebase. I was tasked with updating the Firebase to include building types on campus. As you can see here in this campus building collection, all these documents should have a type. So I completed that task. Next task was to create a model for this campus building. As you can see here, basically just a schema. ID, name, location, geopoint, which is just latitude and longitude, and the type of campus building. My next task was to implement put and get methods on the API server for the campus building collections and the events collections. I ended up splitting this one into two. I did the get methods for this iteration, and I was saving the puts for iteration 5. But as you can see here, this is the one for campus buildings. Execute it. I did it earlier, but it just pulls everything from the campus building collection. And then for the events one, here, I executed it earlier, just pulls all the information from the events collection. My next task that I ended up adding was to add the type attribute in the parking lots collection. As you can see here, this one type, I added it last iteration. But whenever I went to try to pull the data from the parking lots from the server, I kept getting a null for it, but I forgot to add it in the controller for it, for the lots one, and I kept getting a null, but now as you can see here, they all have a type, well, like what type the lot is. This next task goes hand in hand. I was tasked with updating the current history in long-term parking lots, which I started, but I did not end up finishing. But I plan on finishing that in iteration 5. I was also tasked with working on the long-term trigger. It does execute, but I do get a null reference just because I don't have all the lots in the current history in long-term parking lot yet. But once I do get all that, I should not get this error for long-term trigger. I was also tasked with implementing Firebase authentication and get the team authenticated. This is only for users of the app, but since we are not asking them for their credentials, we don't need to implement this. But for future use, if one was to want to do this, it's all set up, and all the rules are set up for it too. So it'd be easy to do. And then this next task was adding a report button to report any issues or bugs, which I worked on with Devon. He kind of showed the front end of it, and I'll show the back end here. So users will be able to add a document in the reports collection, whatever they type out and the time they did it. And the rules for this is the only collection in here that has open access to all the rules to be able to read, write, and create. Because essentially that's what they're doing. They're able to create a document from their response and able to read it as well. But that's it from me.
Hey, Vaughn here. This iteration I focused on working with the API code to get it to a point where it could run indefinitely at a low cost and call functions on a loop given a certain delay of time. I outlined this in car counting and the weather function. However, I only ended up implementing it into the weather function since we don't have the technology or hardware to start counting cars in parking lots. To run these functions, all I have to do is go onto the API, click try it out, click execute, and then as you can see to the side, you'll get a little pop-up from the console that tells you what exactly has been grabbed from online. Below that, there'll be a little sleep timer telling you for how long you'll have to wait until the function to call again. In the future, we plan to implement this in fetching events, counting cars that go into parking lots, and triggering a long-term averaging system. Lastly, and of minor importance, I also pushed our story point list onto a Kanban for this iteration, just to help out with a bit of organization.
Omar here for Team 1 of the Intelligent Parking application. So for this iteration, I was tasked to work closely with Devon on the Events tab, and I managed to create a web scraper that would web scrape the events off the Tennessee Tech website. The Tennessee Tech calendar website. So simply, it just takes the RSS, which is pretty much the website code, and it breaks it up and figures out when it can, which events to pull and which events not to pull. And Devon was tasked with building the UI of it. So I was able to successfully store all of the events in the Events tab in the database. I was also successfully able to display the list of events for the academic year, basically figuring out how to get specific events from the different times of the year, because I ran into an issue where it would pull all of the events for however long Tennessee Tech left the information there. So there's events from 2023, which we did not need. I also ran into some issues with the prediction model. It wasn't giving me consistent results, and I needed to go back and figure out what was wrong. Apparently, what was wrong with the prediction model was the data. The way it was being put inside of the prediction model, it was not as good as it should have been. For the time series, for the visual input object detection, it is being done, but I have ran into some issues with YOLO. But good news, the YOLO V9 has just come out, and it's really easy to train on a custom data set on that. So it shouldn't be very hard. I just had a hiccup on the prediction model, the time series prediction model. How it was inputting wasn't coherent with the output, and the UI is built for it from the previous team, so I don't think I'll be changing too much of that. All that would have to be done is just connecting what is being stored on the Firebase database, which is right here, to the parking prediction UI. So my plan for so that's everything that I've done in iteration 4. For iteration 5, I plan on just finalizing everything. The overall app that we've built is pretty much complete, just minor. All of the main components are there. We just need to connect it all together. I'm very excited. The whole team has put a lot of time and effort into this, and I believe this app is going to turn out really, really good for us. I'm very excited. That's pretty much all I have. Thank you for watching.